Welcome to Rooted, Stories of Entrepreneurship and Agribusiness, a podcast from Colorado State University's Department of Agricultural and Resource Economics. I'm your host, Lauren Chenerides. I'm currently an assistant professor of agricultural business at Colorado State University, where I teach a course on agribusiness entrepreneurship. In this podcast series, we explore stories of how people across the food and agriculture industry identify problems, create solutions, and build or improve businesses that make an impact. What makes Rooted unique is that each episode is co-hosted by students in the agribusiness entrepreneurship course who bring their own curiosity and questions to the table. Their conversations with leaders across food and agriculture are a chance to learn, reflect, and share those insights with you, our audience of students, entrepreneurs, and change makers in food and agriculture. I appreciate your time and attention, and I'm excited to share these inspiring stories with you. I'm joined today by our student co-hosts, Taylor and Dash. Taylor is a livestock business management major, and Dash is an agricultural business major. And our guest today is Bobby Strecker. Bobby is the district business manager for ABS Global across Colorado, Wyoming, and Nebraska. He manages a team of 28, which is quite admirable, and works closely with producers on genetics, reproduction strategies, and bull acquisitions. His work is highly seasonal, ranging from marketing and social media content to spring sales and winter consulting. He and his wife also run a diversified livestock operation at home and a growing show goat business that now reaches into Oklahoma and Texas using AI technologies. Bobby got his roots growing up on an Angus cow-calf operation in Virginia, going on to later graduate from CSU in 2015. We're really excited to have you here, Bobby. Thank you so much for joining. You're coming at us virtually, but I think still just as important and impactful for our listeners. And so welcome, Bobby.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Look forward to it.
Absolutely. And I'm going to turn over to Dash to get us started on some questions.
Yes, of course. Well, Bobby, as we know, your work for ABS is quite vast. You do a lot within the company, including talking to customers about how to fix a product or even sales and managing a team. So what is the story of how you got to this point today?
Yeah, so I guess from an AI standpoint, and we like to say the original AI, right? So for myself, grew up on the cow-calf operation, went to a junior college in Kansas, went to CSU, really enjoy the genetic side of things. And so actually after I graduated, I would have went back and taught and coached the livestock judging team there at Hutchinson for a short stint, but wanted to be out in the industry closer to producers. And so that's kind of what brought me to ABS, and then been here for about 9 years now. So
amazing.
Yeah, great. That's awesome. So as you can tell, your passion is genetics and, livestock. So how does your passion and values for this play into your success?
Well, with a lot of the producers that we work with, it's their livelihood. And so being involved in the livestock industry for myself, you want it to succeed. You want the producers to succeed. And so kind of doing everything you can on a day-to-day basis to help them solve issues that ultimately will create more success for them, to protect their livelihood, continue to grow, continue to prosper for their family, their community.
Yeah. And a follow-up question on this too. So you're working in a very specific component, working with producers. And when you think about the portfolio of challenges or even needs that producers have, how does that compare with the genetic side and working in your current role? How does that play into the portfolio of needs that they have?
Yeah, so I always think as the artificial insemination or the AI industry is pretty big, but really in the whole cattle industry on the beef side, it's very much a niche market. We're still looking at somewhere, depending on where you want to look, 7 to 10% of cattle get AI bred. right? So a very small number in the big scheme of things. And um, one thing that's really fun to see is all the producers. I mean, so the area that I would work in is from the far western part of Colorado to the far eastern part of Nebraska. Could not be any more different in terms of geography, rainfall, everything like that. And so those producers, um, from a genetic standpoint, when we visit with them, it's all very different. And so each one is really, it's a specialized conversation with them about their specific needs. And some of those producers we do quite a bit with in terms of setting up those projects from a reproductive standpoint, providing the semen, the genetic side of it. Others, ultimately they call and ask for semen on X bull. We ship them the semen, and that's as much as we're involved with them. So, a lot of things working with those guys, it is just troubleshooting, going in, visiting with them a few times throughout a year, going and looking at cattle, learning their operation, learning where they're trying to get to, so we can give the best advice possible.
Yeah, and are you seeing any patterns or changes when it comes to the demographics of the clientele that you're working with?
It is. It depends where we're at. It depends on how those operations are set up. Some guys, I mean, the average rancher is getting older, right? And one of the biggest concerns out there right now in the industry is where's that going to go? When those guys retire, is there somebody to pass it down to? Can they transition? Succession planning is a big topic as well in working with those producers. And so we have a very diverse group. We have some of those guys that are looking to retire. Maybe they're in their 70s, maybe they're 80. They're looking to slow down. But on the other end of it, what's really nice to see is we get to work with a lot of producers that are the same age as, like I am or you guys are, and young, coming back to the operation. Between those guys, it's very different in terms of how they gather information. A lot of the younger producers are doing a lot more research. A lot of those older producers are probably taking more of your word for it. You've built that relationship over time, and the younger guys are social media or using the internet to research things and whatnot, and taking on more of the technology that's available in the ag industry to make decisions and to progress.
Well, all right. I have another follow-up question for you. So as you've told us, you've been in this business for 9 years. I'm sure you've faced many challenges, many walls you've hit. What did you do to overcome them, and what have been the hardest ones?
Yeah, so one of the biggest ones is, I said before earlier, from Virginia originally, went to Hutchinson for junior college, and then went to CSU. So when I went to CSU, I didn't know a single person when I showed up, and kind of pretty similar to when I started with ABS, right? So starting in an area where pretty producer focused, working with sales reps, working with producers, and it really was a blank slate, a fresh map out there. And so wasn't easy, especially coming into an industry that, maybe there's older ranchers, older producers out there listening to, at the time was 22, 23 years old. And so working with those guys, and the biggest thing I would say is kind of put your head down and continue to travel and meet those guys, meet producers. The more you get to know them, it takes a lot of time. So earning the trust, earning the trust of those producers to be able to work with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it reminds me of just the value of networking in particular. And can you tell the students who will be listening to this how networking has played a role in your career?
Yeah. Biggest thing I can do or tell you to do is try and do as many internships as possible, whether it's a week long, 6 weeks long, a whole summer, whatever it might be, because not only do you get kind of involved in different segments that you might be interested in, and you don't have to really go down that road, but also you can connect some dots with people that you might run into. For me, I didn't do a whole lot of internships. I did one true, I guess, internship in, let's say, in the genetics field, and that was with Zoetis back in between my sophomore and junior year of college. And the people I worked with there, that would have been, let's say, my supervisors during the internship, I still work with today. And it gives you an idea, the other people that were in the internship program with me, maybe they stayed in that field, maybe they haven't. Continue to work with them. Different events, I'm one, in the role I'm in now, you end up going to a lot of trade shows, a lot of seminars and things like that. It's pretty easy to sit in the back of the room and just kind of watch and not interact with people. Go around, interact if you're there, talk to people at booths, things like that. They will remember you later on, just because there's not many people that do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting. Just by talking to somebody at a trade show, you can set yourself apart. But it's simple, but it's powerful.
Yep. The power of a good handshake.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're gonna change notes here right now and talk a little bit about your startup of the cattle selling website. What battles did you face when making the startup?
Well, it still is in progress, right? And so back up a little bit to why even to try and do it, and really kind of doing this and being out and seeing different segments. We talked about how my current role is very seasonal. Well, part of that come this time of the year and come time in the spring, we have a lot of producers, a lot of customers that are trying to sell bred heifers. They're trying to buy open replacement heifers to breed the next year and then maybe resell. One of the biggest things we've seen is guys struggle finding quality, consistent cattle to buy. And so the idea behind it is there a way that you can do an easy platform, kind of like a classifieds listing, where you vet the cattle, make sure that the quality, make sure everything checks out, and then provide that to the public that's easy to access. Take out the middleman. We don't need to be involved in terms of that. And so that's kind of what started it. Right now, getting the website designed, the idea behind it, and getting the domain set up is probably the easiest thing. I would say the biggest struggle is what's yet to come. And what that is the process of trading the cattle, right? Of finding them, of getting them listed, of getting producers bought into it, because we talked about already the age of the producer currently. How many of them trust the internet or really, look into the technology side of that? And so that's probably the biggest thing that is going to come, that I feel is going to be the biggest problem.
And it's great though that you've got this expertise, you understand the industry, and you see the need, the unmet need, and then here you are coming in and with this new technology to really help support and provide value to the ultimate customer, and it truly like just the definition of entrepreneurship in practice. Yeah.
Yep. And that's one of the things here over the last so obviously it's not up and running, and so when you start going down a path and looking at that, and so ultimately the idea is find a problem, provide a solution, right? It's pretty simple in the big scheme of things until you get down to it. But when you start looking at that, you start realizing, is there something like this out there? And you find a lot of little pieces here or there that do some of it, and trying to put it together, and then you start doing it, and maybe visit with other people that are doing a similar thing, and well, can we just merge together? You know, I mean, you're further along in this regard. I'm further along here. You know, what can we provide to make it better? Because, you know, to me on any of it, the follow through, the execution is probably the hardest thing.
Right, right. And then
So
along the way, you know, just maybe you discover a new competitor and you may have to pivot, or you may have to, you know, think, okay, well, how are we differentiated from this other product? I mean, there could be a myriad other different ways of going about
yep.
it and having to adjust and adapt. But everything you said too, of just like even understanding the current marketplace and who the competitors are, is another key component. Mm-hmm.
So obviously, Bobby, you were talking about, you know, the people you were talking to who are trying to do the same thing as you, maybe starting their own companies. What help have you gotten and where you have made it so far with the website? And if any help, what is it?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the main people try and work with are just different of our sales reps and our current customers. I mean, what makes it easy for them? And so part of it is you get onto a lot of these platforms that have been out for a long time, and they do a really good job of marketing cattle. It's either an online or a live sale format with a high percentage of commission. So you pay a lot of that back. And so for us, what can we do that is very easy? You don't need the middleman. It's a cheaper fee, right? Of, you know, to trade cattle, to buy or to sell them there. And so that's a big part of it. You know, for me, it's not necessarily always visiting with the competitors, but you need to watch them. And I don't know, sometimes competitor, I think, can sometimes be a harsh word, right? They're, you know, you learn from them just as much as anything. And so looking at what they're trying to do, oh, maybe I didn't think of that. What about adding that part in there in terms of sorting cattle by a certain listing, or, you know, doing videos and pictures or none, right? And so those are some of the things that we've picked up on. But I would say so far, a lot of what I've tried to implement in terms of how you can sort them, whether it be from the state, whether it be from price, the genetics backing them, has really came from producers themselves, just to try and make it more user friendly.
Right, right. Yeah, just having your ultimate customers work through it and then ask them, oh,
Yeah.
what did you like about this, or what did you wish you had here, and get feedback from them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of, you know, creating the sales platform for producers and produced by producers, right? So it's easy for them.
That's excellent. That's a good tagline right there.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah.
And adding on to that, so you've had years of experience working with producers and traveling and meeting all these people. Do you think that played a big role in, you know, helping you understand what this website needs to accomplish?
100%. I mean, the idea wouldn't have came about if wasn't working with producers already, right? To find out what that is, and then just, you know, working with these guys and these producers and knowing what they want. I mean, that's played a big role into trying to keep it simple, kind of the idea behind it, and really just how I see it and want it to run in the future.
Yeah, I like that. Well, that is all the questions I have right now.
I have some more.
If you have some more,
Yeah.
I'm happy to talk about them. Let's go.
Cool. So, so Bobby, I'm gonna bring it back to your time, your role at ABS and managing 28 people. So, you know, thinking about the fact that, you know, if the class is on agribusiness entrepreneurship, you know, we talk about entrepreneurial mindset being a place where being exerted not only when you're running your own company, but can happen inside an organization. That's the entrepreneurship. And leading teams is also a component in being able to accomplish goals that, whether it's a company you own or a company you work for, can, you have these goals you set, you need a team. So I want to go back to this 28 person team that you're managing. If you can just talk to us about, what does that look like? How do you do that successfully? And how do you, what are like the best practices for being able to oversee that many people?
Yeah, so I guess successfully, that would be that's a good question. I don't know if that actually happens, but use a lot of email, a lot of communication there, and it working with those sales reps. I mean, some of them have been reps 30, 40 years, right, in those areas, and so they're very well established. They know the area better, that area they work in better than I do. Um, and so they're probably, I don't have to be as involved with them on a day-to-day basis, right? And then, one of the biggest struggles always every year is we have some of those sales reps that are retiring and we have to replace them. And so that's probably where become more and more involved. And so communication's big, and I think communication differs between each rep. I send out the mass emails, right? That's one thing, but just touch points with those sales reps, weekly, monthly, learning to work with all those different people and all the different personalities is probably big. Some guys want you to be involved weekly. They might send you a text, give you a call, send you an email on a weekly basis. There's others, if you talk to them on the phone 3 times a year, they're perfectly fine. They're going in the right direction, and things like that. And so that's always probably one of the biggest challenges is learning those different personalities.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just everyone's coming in with, different personality, maybe even different ways of doing things. And I can imagine like you all have the same goal, to sell, and
Yep.
there's maybe multiple pathways to get there.
Yep. I mean, and then we have, sales reps within there that, a lot of them have their own business, their own cattle operation of their own, or they're involved in something else. And so, it's a balancing act. Um, a lot of those guys, they're on their own, and ultimately when what they expect from myself or other managers or to bring ideas, try and help them better their business if possible, because they have the basics covered very, very well.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. So I'm going to kind of take it in a little bit of a different direction, but more on industry perspective, and ask a question here about what trends or changes are you seeing in your industry that future entrepreneurs should pay attention to? So whether or not they're working for a company, but maybe even starting their own business in this
Yep.
industry, what are those trends? And I'll ask a follow-up question after that.
Yeah. So, I mean, big trends that are out there that probably are easy to see is the whole cow numbers in our industry and the beef industry are going down, right? And they have here for a few years now, but now we're hitting all-time record low cow numbers. One of the things though is there's not a shortage of beef, right? Our tonnage of beef, right, and in total amount and pounds of beef is still increasing. Ultimately, with that, producers are getting a lot more efficient. The cattle are getting more efficient. The packers are harvesting these cattle at bigger and heavier weights as well. And so that's one thing where we're seeing lower cow numbers, and with that, less and less producers. There's less ranchers out there. We're losing ranchers by the day, by the year, and it's getting lower and lower. And so, that's a big trend that we see now. I mean, there's a push, and there will be for trying to adapt more and more new technology, for ranchers, for producers to hopefully make life easier for them. Um, it's still a trend that we have less and less labor. Okay, it's harder and harder to find people to work, people to do the jobs, and not always the glamorous jobs, but the work that matters in terms of getting out there. For young people, I think there is, like we talked before, there's a big generational shift that's happening. If it truly is, on farm, on ranch, being a producer, I think now's a great time to go and find some really good mentors, because the livestock industry as a whole, no producer wants to see it die. It is a necessity to feed the world. And so they want to see it survive and succeed. And so they're willing to mentor, willing to help people try and get started. Outside of that, from the meat industry, the packing industry, there's a lot more stuff kind of going in there in terms of technology for yield grade calculations and things like that. So more of the engineering technology side of things probably used more and more there versus in the field. So that's another area probably that's really worth looking into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. Like the efficiency gains, that's important because it couples or coincides with the aging population, new technology. Certainly, after all these conversations I've been having with the various mentors, we've got a few in production, and ranching. Even reps from CCA or Colorado Cattlemen's Association, yep. Colorado Beef Council. So it just really has me inspired to go out and play my role and think about, okay, how can we coexist right now in a time where we see these changes happening? And I'm like at the edge of my seat here, ready to do something about it.
Yeah. I mean, one of the, growing up, it always seemed, if you want to be involved in ag, there's only about a handful of ways you can do it, right? Be a vet, be a rancher, be a farmer, things like that. And really, as you get into it, there's so many different things. I mean, the people that design combines, right? I mean, there are more engineering majors that are involved in ag. There's people, we have a sex semen product with ABS, right? I mean, the people that design that are really they're scientists that maybe don't have a big connection to what we think is ranching or farming or agriculture, but yet they're still involved. And so no matter what, if you want to be involved in ag, there's so many different areas you can be without actually being boots on the ground in the field, raising cattle, harvesting corn and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Taylor, did you have a question?
Yeah, kind of on that topic with the different ways that the younger generation can get involved in ag. Do you think that internships and experiences like internships are a good way to kind of find what direction you want to go?
Very, very good way. When I say the one more corporate internship I did there a long time ago with Zoetis, I actually left that thinking I never wanted to be a salesman. I never wanted to be in that field at all because it seemed, all you did was drive around, right? And that was it. And so I didn't think, look at me now and it's the exact same role, just a different segment of the industry. And I just really, I enjoy it at this point. And so getting involved and probably realize a lot of time internships, if you really enjoy it, you're probably doing more of the grunt work. And so as you get involved in it, you're probably going to enjoy it more and more if you do enjoy that field you're doing it. And take internships, maybe you think it's a pathway. It's okay if it doesn't work out. It's okay if you leave there saying, I didn't really enjoy that. That's just as good as saying you did enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, personal experience too. I had an internship the summer after, it was probably my summer after my sophomore year of college. And it was just one of those things. I thought I was going to love it and then learned very quickly that was not for me and ended up in a very different industry. But I learned so much from that experience. Yeah. Did you have another one? Taylor?
No, if you had another follow-up question.
Well, my question for you, Bobby, has to do with learning. So where do you learn? Where do you get information? Are you reading up on, trade journals and things like this? How close to the research are you? How close to, different industry groups are you reading? And maybe that's also podcasts, but curious to know like how you're keeping up with the trends.
I do listen to a lot of podcasts. Windshield time. I think it's a great way of learning, listening to different people. And I wouldn't say there's only a couple podcasts out there that I've probably listened to lots and lots of their different segments. But there's a lot of just material out there. I mean, we're at a time where there's probably more information available to people than ever before. Internet, still get magazines and things like that. And so try and read different bits and pieces. I think between those, looking up what is happening in the industry in those different, ag economists, they do their different segments and whatnot, the podcast. And so that's probably where being on the road a lot, podcasts I take a lot from. And then maybe something, piques my interest and then I go back and use Google or do research in that regard to find out how much is factual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely great to follow up and whether or not it is podcast or otherwise, it's always good to check the facts.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. I have another one. Okay. So in your your career, even in just the 9 years at ABS, and you could even like extrapolate this to your outside of or extracurriculars beyond ABS. What are some gaps or opportunities you wish more young people would explore?
The rural area, I would say, kind of getting involved, I guess, with more, I live in a town of 2,000 people, right? We have a hospital. We have everything you might need around here, but I would be pressed to say that it is thriving and continuing to grow. And so kind of getting out of the comfort zone of that, looking at how can you make an impact from maybe it's a technology standpoint, but how can you make an impact on some of these more rural communities because that's where ag lives and dies. And so I would say that's one thing is moving to this area, seeing there's not many young people coming back. There's not many young people that are staying in this community as well. And so looking at things around that, I would say is an area of focus. Really trying to bridge the gap between what happens in the real world out here and trying to connect some technology to it, I think is going to be pretty valuable for the future.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that's great. That's great advice and just like a great experience for people is, just go out, drive to the rural parts of your state and get to know, what your state has to offer. And then on the technology side too, we here at CSU, we're introducing a lot of technology into our classes. And I think we're at an inflection point of how do we do that now effectively with AI. And we've brought in a lot of coding. We've brought in a lot of, certainly like Excel, Python, R, mapping, all these things. And now we have this new tool. So just thinking about how do we use that well so that we can, be ready, have our students be ready for the industry needs.
I kind of had a question. Bring it back towards like the website with the cattle. Do you think that bringing the technology of the website to those rural communities is going to help those rural farmers and ranchers have easier and quicker access to those replacement animals because they don't have to try and travel to find them? You can, like, using technology, they're easier to find.
Yeah, that's the hope. That's the goal. I don't know how many of them are going to be able to pull up the website on their flip phone. But, that is the goal, though, is to hopefully give them more accurate information, where they don't have to take the time to get off their operation to go travel to see them. So that's the goal. Make it simpler for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I imagine, those with a non-flip phone will find a lot of value in it, and save them a lot of time costs as well.
Yeah, we still work with producers that just have a landline.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe it.
Think about that.
I believe it. Mm-hmm. I really do. That's a story for another day, though. My experience in that. Yeah. So we're going to kind of close out with our last section of questions on kind of advice. So what's one lesson or mistake that taught you something about building or growing an idea? We may have touched on this earlier when you were talking about the website, but maybe, thinking back to, we can even extrapolate this to say, okay, what's one lesson or mistake that taught you something about building or growing an idea that you turn into advice for our students?
Yeah, so I mean, just whether it be this and or other things, just whether it be in your actual job, whether it be trying to start a startup or a project, it's your idea. And if you have a team that's working with you, making sure they're as invested as you are, because if you put everything on them, it doesn't go as you see fit and it kind of crashes and dies out. There's only one person to blame. It's not the rest of the team. It's typically you, right? So staying involved, if it is something you want to see be done, do the work yourself. Have a very trusted team that makes sure is as invested as you are. And when you have a team, make sure they're all smarter than you are. So make sure, find people that are specialized in those certain areas, to be better than you are there. And that's the way it'll hopefully succeed.
Yeah, it's so great. And it's so important to have the team, like you're saying too. And when you have the idea, oftentimes it's not necessarily a one-person show. We see this a lot with companies that we study in the class of just how many people are required to get that company going. So, and leadership, like you're mentioning too, just the importance of leadership. Awesome. So kind of our last question for the day is, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice about starting out, what would it be?
Do more internships.
PSA for today.
Rather than, I mean, probably just back when I was in college and your age is probably get involved in more different groups, versus not. I think there's a lot of value in just kind of, and outside of the area. I mean, we talk about podcasts. Majority of the podcasts I listen to are non-ag related, right? Because there is information from outside of your industry that's going to have value. And so that's probably something, in college, get involved in different groups outside of your normal friend group, do internships outside of your comfort zone. Don't stay, depending where you're from, don't go back home for your internship. Don't stay in Fort Collins for it. Go somewhere different.
That's great advice. So you guys have any internships lined up?
No, I don't. After this, I might have to talk to Bobby and get one.
Awesome. Well, Bobby, it's been so great having you in our mentor cohort, and thank you to Taylor and Dash for being here as our co-hosts. That'll wrap us up for today, but thanks for being here, and thanks to everybody online.